Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are finally going to continue our video series of Yemei Shmuel, the life of Rabbi Shmuel Horowitz, who was a legendary Passover chassid from Tzfat in the early 1900s, and he has a crazy life story. And we're reading through the book Yemei Shmuel. It's divided up into three parts. We're still in the first Chelik Aleph, the first part. And the last few videos we did, he was discussing how World War I was in Tzfat and the types of stresses they had. Right now, there's just a lot in the background, by the way. I'm just saying there's a lot of plane action. I live in Tzfat in the north of Israel, and we are at war, almost full-on war, but we've been at war for the last 8 months, so there's just a lot of planes going on in the background because there's some drone alerts. So if there's a siren, I'll probably have to get up and leave the video. But anyway, let's continue. So he says, so now he's talking about that it was in the winter of Shvat, and there was a great amount of snow in Tzfat and in Yerushalayim. Many houses were damaged, and people were starving because there wasn't any food. Stores were not able to be open, and he said that there were volunteers who would go around in their whole entire body. They would have to go deep into snow and to bring food to people. Because mamish people didn't. It wasn't like today you could stock up. It was like you ate from day to day then. So if they didn't have food, they would die. So people had to bring them food, and there was a lot of great screaming and pain and stress that the snow should actually stop because it just kept on going. And then the snow finally stopped, Baruch Hashem, and the government removed all the snow that was on the thing. On the streets and on the ground, whatever, and he says that in Tzfat, the snow stayed for a few weeks, and he says that there were certain yeshivas that moved into his shul, which was I guess in the Chabad shul. That's what he says, because they couldn't go to their yeshiva, whatever it was, because of the snow. And he says also in this time there was 1 year where there was not able to be Lag BaOmer in Meron. Right, Lag BaOmer in Meron is a very big theme in this book. But he always talks about it. And why was there not able to be Lag BaOmer in Meron? Because he says at this time there was pogroms against the Christians. That in all the cities, all these small little cities and villages that were in Syria, that were close to the borders of Eretz Yisrael, which was then under the government of Tzarfat, under the government of France, the Arabs attacked their neighbors, the Christians, and killed them in very brutal ways. Women, men, and children, and babies, and everything. And they stole everything they had from them, and they burnt stuff, and they destroyed stuff, and they made toihu v'vohu. And whatever small amount of French army that was there was not able to stop them. And they also did this in Kfar Ein Ival in Lebanon. And there was one Jew who lived there. This is going back. There was Jews living in Lebanon, then there was Jews living in Syria, and everybody was able to travel to each other. Tzfas, this, that. So there was different type of time back then. Today we're being attacked by Lebanon. Back then there was Jews living in Lebanon. And he said that there was this one Jew who lived there in this Kfar Ein Ival, and he had property there, and he was a friend of my father's. He actually used to come daven in our shul for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we didn't know what was going to be with him. And then we were nervous that there shouldn't be stuff like this happening in Eretz Yisrael, because these areas in Lebanon and Syria were close to Tzfas and Meron. And therefore, I guess whoever the governor was in that time in this area of Eretz Yisrael, Tzfas Meron, he says we cannot have Lag BaOmer Meron because he couldn't protect anybody who would come over there. But then the sheikh, who was the Rosh Kfar Meron, I guess it was an Arab at that time, when he heard this, he came himself on Arab Lag BaOmer to the governor, and he said to her, how could it be that there shouldn't be a hadlaka in Meron? Even he understood the importance of having Meron Lag B'Omer and fires and everything. So he took himself, this sheik took a minion of men that he was responsible for, and they went to Rabbi Shimon, and also my friend Rabbi Yisrael Dovo Desser, Me'anshe Shemenu Saba from Nanach. He was part of this minion, and they made a hadlaka there at night, and they did Avodas Hashem, and it was very good. And but in the morning after davening, there was a little bit of an argument between the goyim there and the Jews there, and the sheik took the Jews back to Tzfas, and the rest of the people in Tzfas, whoever came, guests and everything, they made a big hadlaka in Tzfat, and they went, and it was going on the whole entire night, singing and dancing and everything like that. And it was great. And then in the morning, a little girl came, the daughter of this Jew who lived in Lebanon, who lived in Kfar Ein Ival, and she told us that she was by the neighbor, and there the Arabs were making destruction of the Christians, and she had a great nace, and she hid herself. She traveled, I guess, from Lebanon to Tzfat by herself. She had to hide herself on the way a few times, but she had no idea what happened to her family. V'achach lifnois Arab, then closer to evening, he came himself, the father came himself, and he told about the nisim and the flies that he had, that they stole all of his property, and they burnt his house, v'chol asher, and they also tried to shoot at him, and he's also saved by nace, and he also hid himself on the way until he came to Tzfat, and he also did not know what happened to the rest of his family. And the next day, the rest of his family came, also with nisim. Baruch Hashem, there was no Jews that were killed in that attack. And then afterwards, the Memshelet Tzarfat, the France government captured, recaptured whatever that area from the Arabs, and they bought a lot of their soldiers, and they killed a lot of the Arabs. And this guy also got money from the government of France for the damages that he incurred from the Arabs. And he did not go back to Lebanon. He stayed and lived in Tzfat. Then Rav Shmuel Horowitz was talking about that the Arabs in Tzfat started to get up and start fighting against the Jews of Tzfat. And they made protests and they made gatherings. But our governor of Tzfat, whoever that was, the mayor of Tzfat, whoever that was, he stood against them. And he says that, and Rav Shmuel Horowitz says that all the time that this guy was the governor or the mayor of Tzfat, his name was Mar Moody, Mr. Moody. When all the time that he was the governor, everything was good, everything was peaceful, and everything. And the Jews were treated well. But afterwards, they took him to London, and Rahman al-Islam, there was very, very bad pogroms in Tzfat in the year Taf Reish Peites Tarpat Hashem Yishmereinu. There's a street in Tzfat, a street that Sanz is on, and close to where I live, called Rehov Tarpat, after the people who died and were killed by the Arabs. And then from then on in, Tzfat was not doing too well. And Shmuel Horowitz says, and my family, we went to live in a different apartment after Chag Sukkos. And they didn't give money at all for the Rabbanim of the city, and his father was a rabbi. And my father did not have any money. And he had to borrow money from the bank, and he didn't have any way to pay it back, and we didn't have parnasa, and it was a very, very bad situation. So he decided that he needs to travel to America, because America was land of the free, anybody could succeed over there, right? That's what they used to say. So he went there because they said that when they come to America, everybody thought that when they he says over here, he says, Kikulam chashvu shekishu yaveh America, alzman ma yasik gedolos. He'll make a lot of money. He'll be successful. And this is why he decided to go. He started to figure out how to get to America, to stay there a certain amount of time, so that he could gather money to live and also to pay his chayv. But then Rosh Hashanah says, Aval manaseh, but what can you do? He says, because this is also the galus of the Shechina, because people who are Talmidei Chachamim Amitim and Yirei Chet, Yisayivu b'chutzos, k'mo shedarshu Chavim al hapasik, ve'istarti panai mehem, v'chol she'enu b'hastar panam mehem, v'chol she'enu b'vayihi lechem mehem. I don't know what that means. V'zeu ta'amiti shlo yetziachal. I guess he's saying that, like, people, like, you have to play tricks to you have to pull some strings, you have to play some games, you have to speak about this and do certain types of things to be a rav in certain areas in America, I guess, so that to get money. But his father was not like that. He was not a trickster, and he was not a meforsam shel sheker. He was a very holy yid. So he says, my father was very, very far from this. He did not. Basically, he's saying Rosh Hashanah said it didn't work out for him in America, because there was a lot of sheker there. But afterwards, he was able to get a job as a rabbi in the city of Winnipeg in Canada. It's so interesting to me, like back then, going to like Winnipeg and there being Jews there. That's where he became rabbi. And he bought, and he started making money over there, and some of my other family went there, and they had, Baruch Hashem, they had something good. Aval gam came ibnei goydel, but he says also there, because of his great truth that he had, my father, right? Shehim ratzu sheyir doif as harav hasheni shal yisham. Now they wanted to kick out the second rav that was there or something, for some reason, and my father saw that this Rav was right, or whatever it was, and he was a very, very holy, from Jew, full of Yiras Shamayim. So not only did he not join the community in trying to drive this Rav out, but Adrabah kirvu be'ahava kroi. He started bringing this Rav closer and trying to make peace. And because of this, the Kahal got very angry at him, and they started trying to drive both of these Rabbanim out. One is Rav Shmuel Horowitz's father, and the other one was his other rabbi. He doesn't say his name. And now my father was again left without any money. And he says that if my father would have had something to make money with in Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, he would have came back, but he didn't. So he had to stay there in the Eretz HaTamea, and he had to try to figure out how to make money. So that's what happened basically. Then, like, Rosh Hashanah likes to fast forward. Now we're going to go back. So now he says, like, okay, now when he started thinking about going to America, how do you get this Rishayon? You needed to get like a permit to go to America, a visa, whatever. Now, but then my father was talking to Dr. Keller about going to America in Yerushalayim. Because he came to Tzfas for the Shabbos after Lag BaOmer, and he was talking to my father about him going to America. And then afterwards, it happened that Dr. Keller went to America. He was in America in a Beis Knesset Shal Yisham Gam Doidi Achi Avi, and he met my father's brother in America in a shul. And my father's brother asked about my father. And he says, and this Dr. Keller told him that he wants to go to America, but he can't get a visa to go inside. And he told this Dr. Keller that he's going to try to get him a visa. V'chein asa. And it wasn't so long, and Baruch Hashem, they sent the visa to my father. And when my father got this thing, and between Purim and Pesach of the year Taf Reish Pei Beis, My father traveled to America. And that's what all we're going to do today, because the planes are starting up again. Hopefully no sirens. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.